CBS Sports HQ presented by Capital One. Jeremy St. Louis, Jacqueline D'Agostino, happy to have you along. We're into the festive season, Christmas right around the corner, and college football bowl season, which means it's like Christmas for our draft guy.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of the big names opting out of the bowls, going into the NFL drafts. We talked about some big names, especially with Ryan Wilson. We got Will Levis. He's declaring for the draft. Anthony Richardson, just some of the big names that we've talked about. We had a bet on if I was going to bring up Anthony Richardson.
And you did.
Within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it.
Never a doubt.
Anyways,
never a doubt.
Ryan Wilson, he's giving us his predictions on how the 2023 NFL draft is going to shake out. Here's a look at his very latest mock draft. He's got Bryce Young going #1 overall to Houston. Chicago Bears for the #2 pick. He has Will Anderson. And then for the #3 pick, the Seahawks, they have that pick via Denver. And he has UGA's Jalen Carter going there. Miles Murphy, Tyree Wilson rounding out the top 5. And let's welcome in the man himself, our NFL draft expert, Ryan Wilson. Ryan, we are on a roll. I think this is day 3 or 4 that we are talking about some mock drafts. Starting off with the #1 pick, Texans. We know they were eliminated for the playoffs, from the playoffs rather, along with the Bears just a few days ago. You got Bryce Young going #1 overall to Houston. Why is he a good fit there? And what do the Texans do with the #13 pick? What do you think they're going to do?
So, Jacqueline, first off, good thing this is the family show that airs in the middle of the day, because we were playing the how many times did Jacqueline mention Anthony Richardson drinking game, I would not be able to do the show. So, good start there. In terms, I'm glad you like that one. In terms of what the Houston Texans are doing, and, we've talked about this previously, Jacqueline, I love Bryce Young. Rick Spielman, who is now with us at CBS Sports, loves Bryce Young, but it is so uncommon for a quarterback who is probably going to be 5'10"-ish and 185-ish to be considered the first overall pick or even a first-round pick. But he feels like a truly special talent and a ready-to-made start day one NFL quarterback. Now, you're going to have to surround him with some players, but you can say that about any quarterback coming to the NFL. And the Texans don't want to wait around to have to develop a quarterback. Davis Mills, they took 2 years ago in the 3rd round. He's been benched just a few weeks ago, so it doesn't appear he's a long-term answer. So if you want your quarterback, you have the first overall pick, you go out and get the best player. What do they do with their other first-round pick? Well, they would love to get offensive line help because they are forever in need of it. But now, as we sit here in this most recent mock draft that we just saw the graphic on, 2 offensive linemen have already gone off the board. So what are they going to do? They're going to give Bryce Young some playmakers, which, weirdly enough, he hasn't really had at Alabama this year. He's certainly accustomed to them in previous years. But Jordan Addison, the Pitt transfer, now at USC, who has had a fantastic season in the Pac-12. He's undersized. He's probably about 175-ish. He plays much bigger, stronger, faster than that. Also, like Bryce Young, he would come in and be a day one contributor. So you hit 2 home runs, fingers crossed, with those 2 first-round picks and hopefully get back in the mix in the AFC South.
All right, Ryan, here we go. Let's talk about the other quarterbacks in this draft class. Okay, I think this is the 3rd time I'm going to mention this show, but we got to talk about it. Anthony Richardson, of course, along with Will Levis, C.J. Stroud. What teams would be the right fit for those guys?
So we talked about Bryce Young and why that's a good fit in Houston, because he's ready-made, day one type player to go. At pick 6, I have the Carolina Panthers going to C.J. Stroud. It's no secret that owner David Tepper desperately wants a quarterback. He tried to get Deshaun Watson last offseason. That clearly didn't work out. C.J. Stroud is my #2 quarterback, and he'll probably be the 2nd quarterback off the board and the 2nd quarterback to be named a day one starter, at least given that opportunity during the offseason. He's had a really good season this year at Ohio State. You can't really compare him to Justin Fields, who he succeeded at Ohio State. Fields obviously does more with his legs, but Stroud's probably a better passer at this point in the conversation. And then you go 3 picks later, the Indianapolis Colts take Will Levis. Will Levis is going to be one of the most controversial players in this draft class because of what he was not able to do this year at Kentucky. But scouts love what they see physically. They love the arm strength. They love the above-the-neck smarts. He's a finance guy. He's a good kid. He has a great teammate. All those things that you look for in terms of the intangibles. And he has the tangibles of the ability to throw the ball through a wall. And when you start drawing comparisons to Josh Allen, you get people's attention. We'll see how that unfolds, but the Colts certainly need a quarterback, and there would be no surprise if they went there with one at 10. And then our guy, Anthony Richardson, goes a few picks later at 18 to the Commanders. Now, Taylor Heineke has proven that he's the guy once again. I didn't think that Carson Wentz thing would work out, but they tried to give it a go, and now they returned to Heineke. Heineke's not the long-term answer, and Washington's proven that because they keep trying to go get quarterbacks. And if that's the case, you need to go out and get Anthony Richardson if he's still there midway through the first round. Can he start next year? He probably shouldn't, and you and I have talked about that at some length, and maybe Heineke is the guy you go to for one more season, but I think 2 years from now, Anthony Richardson could begin to turn the corner as not only a NFL starting quarterback, but one of the best young quarterbacks, in the league. He has that type of talent. It's just a matter of putting it all together and not forcing him onto the field because he's not quite ready to take that on yet, I don't think.
And Ryan, the Eagles, arguably the best team in the NFL this season, but they do have a top 5 pick via New Orleans. You have them selecting Texas Tech's Tyree Wilson. Why do you think he is the right move for Philly?
So we haven't talked a lot about Tyree Wilson, primarily because we were talking about the skill position players, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and even some running backs. But here's the thing about Tyree Wilson. He's listed at 6'6", 270, and he looks every bit of that. He is insanely athletic. He is long. He is twitchy for his size. He is strong. And oh, by the way, Robert Quinn and Brandon Graham are in the last year of their deals in Philadelphia. So there is a quote-unquote needed edge rusher. They have pretty much every position covered in Philadelphia. Howie Roseman has done a great job with that. But if someone like Tyree Wilson is there, it may feel a bit high to take him top 10, but I guarantee you as we go through this process, teams are going to talk. We're going to hear more about him. Teams already know about him, but we're going to hear more about him in the media, and he's going to creep up these old media draft boards. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes this high. I wouldn't be surprised if he lands with a team like Philadelphia, and I'd be less surprised if he comes out next year and dominates in a pass rushing role as he grows into a full-time role as an edge rusher.
And Ryan, you have Joey Porter Jr. going 14 overall to your Steelers. Kind of a full circle moment here, Ryan. His dad, former Steeler, also with a big role in their Super Bowl run during the 05 season.
Absolutely. 1999, Joey Porter Sr. was a third-round pick, played edge rusher, and moved to sort of the 3-4 outside linebacker that the Steelers made popular back in the day. And now here we are 20-something years later, and his son is going to get drafted in the first round, and that makes me feel incredibly old that we're at this point in the conversation. But he's a long, physical, fast, strong cornerback who had a fantastic season for Penn State. Just go watch the Ohio State game where he matched up as well as anyone did this entire season against Marvin Harrison Jr., and that shows up week in and week out on the tape. And the interesting thing about the Steelers and Joey Porter and his son Joey Porter Sr., they have a history of taking guys that are related. Look no further than T.J. Watt and his brother Derek. They're currently on the team together. Cam and Connor Hayward are currently on the team together, and Connor had his first touchdown catch last week against the Falcons. And even Terrell Edwards, who plays safety, his brother Trey was on the team as a running back in previous years. So there's a connection there. There's a history of this, and Joey Porter helps him immensely in the secondary. Now, the Steelers have had bad luck drafting cornerbacks in round 1, but I feel like Joey Porter would break that cycle and would be a huge help to a defense that's been pretty good, but they could stand to upgrade on the back end.
All right, Ryan, moving along to the Titans, you have them drafting wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. Now, heading into the season, Ryan, some of the earlier mock drafts, he wasn't as much in the first round conversation. So for you, what has changed throughout the season? What have you seen that makes him now a top 25 pick on your latest mock draft?
That's right. He wasn't anywhere to be seen in the first-round conversation. And a lot of the success he can attribute to Hendon Hooker and the fantastic season he's had. Free Hendon Hooker for Heisman. And here's the thing about Jalen Hyatt. He is... Back in the day when Mike Wallace came out of Ole Miss and was drafted by the Steelers, Mike Tillman described him as a one-trick pony. By that he means he can run by anyone and catch the football. And here's Jalen Hyatt doing his best Mike Wallace impression. And right now he is a legit deep threat. That's what he does best. He's a track guy who can turn on the afterburners, and we saw it week in and week out for the Volunteers. In Tennessee with the Titans, he'd be a huge help because, as we saw last weekend, turns out A.J. Brown was pretty important to what they did offensively. It may have cost the GM his job in Tennessee, John Robinson. And Treylon Burks, who was drafted in the first round this year, has shown glimpses of being able to replace A.J. Brown on some level. Unfortunately, he got concussed last week on the touchdown catch, which was his first of the season. But he only has 25 catches for 359 yards through 14 weeks. During A.J. Brown's rookie season, he had 52 catches for over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. So there's a disparity there. A.J. Brown is a truly special player. Jalen Hyatt can come in and offset some of that loss of productivity. He ain't going to do it all by himself, but hopefully Treylon Burks in year 2, Jalen Hyatt will give them another offensive weapon beyond basically Derrick Henry at this point.
And Ryan, with the Chiefs' first-round pick, you got them taking Georgia tight end Darnell Washington. Ryan, he's got some pretty big shoes to fill, to say the least, in Travis Kelce, but why do you think Kansas City is a good landing place for him?
Well, the intriguing thing about Darnell Washington, I'm not convinced he's going to be a first-round pick. He is an atypical tight end in that he's about 6'6", 270. And in terms of shoes to fill, his feet are probably bigger than Travis Kelce's, just based on sheer size. But here's the thing about him. He is still raw as a pass catcher, but he is a long strider. He actually runs pretty well for that size. He's a fantastic blocker. So if you're looking for a 2-for-1 in terms of a blocker, you can also catch the football. Darnell Washington is going to be the first place you go. The Chiefs could use an upgrade along the offensive line, and maybe you think about, hey, how can we split the difference, get another backup for Travis Kelce, and get someone who can come in right away when you get the jumbo package in Darnell Washington. So he's going to be an intriguing player to watch. He's nothing like you've seen before. He's nothing like Michael Mayer. He's probably going to be the first tight end taken out of Notre Dame, but he's a fun player to watch and a different type player at that tight end position, and it would be fun, just like any player, actually, to get drafted by Andy Reid and play with Patrick Mahomes. So keep an eye out for Darnell Washington. And finally, Jacqueline, Anthony Richardson.
Oh, I think we're at, like 5 now? Is that where we're at, Jeremy?
I wouldn't be doing the show anymore if it was an evening show.
Okay. Okay. That is our NFL draft analyst, Ryan Wilson, breaking down his very latest mock draft and also talking about Anthony Richardson with me once again. I think we're on day 4. You can also hear Ryan on his new podcast alongside Rick Spielman with their podcast With the First Pick. In the very latest episode, they are diving deeper into the QBs in this year's draft class. You can download and listen wherever you get your podcast, and you can also scan that QR code.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.